Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to recommend 10 books for the YA Christian girl. Hey everybody, welcome back to Book Talks with Miss Thomas, or if you're new here, welcome, and please subscribe. The school year is upon us, and if you are new here, then perhaps you don't know, I've begun the Philippians 4 project, where I am going to donate $500 to a Christian library, a Christian school, so that they can add some books to their library for the high school students, because I want high school students to have some wholesome Christian books to read. And I'm going to be posting videos with various genres and various, topics of interest. And this particular video is 10 books that the young adult Christian girl would like. So these are 10 books that I would recommend to the young adult Christian girl. Now, they're all not necessarily Christian. Some of them are, specifically Christian, but some of them are just clean, wholesome books. And I would absolutely start with Emily of Deep Valley. I read it about a year ago, so I don't have the copy with me. I loaned it to a dear friend. It's being passed around church, so I'll put the cover here. Emily of Deep Valley was actually written, I think, in the 1950s, but it still holds true today. And the story, it takes place around, I think, shortly after World War II. And the main character, Emily, graduates from high school, and many of her friends are going off to college. Now, her parents have passed on, and she's living with her very dear grandfather, and she doesn't get to go to college. She could if she wanted, but she chooses to stay behind because she's taking care of her grandfather. It's just Emily and Grandpa, and if she goes off to college, no one's going to really be looking after him, and she loves him and wants to make sure he's well cared for. So she passes up on an opportunity to go to college, even though she's absolutely brilliant, loves school, very academic. And then her friends, that she starts off in the book with her high school friends, they go off to college, and the girls join sororities and the boys join fraternities, and then they come home and she feels left out. They still include her, they still get together, but she doesn't have that same college experience that they're all just beaming about. And so it's really a book about how Emily makes a life for herself, even though it's not the life she had envisioned. And it's a lovely domestic life with her grandfather in her hometown. There's also, it's not a victory garden. It's like this big parade where they go to the gravestones and place flowers, because the grandfather is a big veteran, and he's always talking about, patriotism and the war he served in. So there's some of that too. And it was just a fantastic book. It's not one that people talk about enough. And so that would be first for the young adult Christian girl. Anyone would enjoy these books. I'm in my 50s and I've enjoyed these books. So, if you're not the young adult Christian girl, I think you would still like it. But for my Philippians 4 list, that one's definitely going on there. Sorry about that. I had to relocate. So In Search of a Prince by Tony Shiloh is another really good one. That is, it is a Christian romance. Now, I'm going to do a video on romance books, young adult romance books, but I'm not going to put this one in that video. I'm going to put it in this one as just a good book for every young adult Christian teen girl, because it's just a really fun book about a girl who finds out that her father was a prince in somewhere in Africa. And she did not know that. She's an American. And she decides to go off to Africa to find out about her father. And she's offered the opportunity to take his throne. So in order to do that, she has to marry a prince. And so it's sort of a reversal of Cinderella. It's really cool. It's not exactly romance. I mean, it definitely has romance in it, but I think it's more about the girl coming of age and deciding about her identity and her family and her conflict with her mother, because her mother kept from her the fact that she had this father. He died when she was very young, and the mother never told her the truth about her father. So she has to reconcile that conflict with her mother, and she goes off to Africa with her best friend, and she learns about her heritage, and all throughout that decides to search for a prince so that she can take the throne that would have been her father's. And it's a wonderful book. Another one that I have not read. Now this is, I will tell you, full disclosure, I thought about doing a TBR Philippians 4 video, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do all those videos, because I'm going to be doing genre videos for sure. So I'm just going to include it here, because from what I've heard, this would be a really good book for the young adult Christian girl. And it's called A Girl's Guide to the Outback by Jessica Kate, and I'll put it up here. So I was told that it's a cute book with some faith content, and it's very clean. I read a little bit about it, and it looks like a funny romance, and it definitely starts out with a Christian woman. You know, she's struggling with being I guess in the Outback. I didn't read the book, obviously, but from what I've seen of the book, it looks like it's a really fun one. The Librarian of Boone's Hollow by Kim Vogel Sawyer is definitely a good one. Again, this is historical fiction. It's also got some romance. I could put it in a couple places, but for this video, I want to do a list of books, 10 to be exact, that would be appropriate for the YA Christian girl. And this one's really nice. It's about, I loved this book. It's about a girl who is in college, and she has to drop out rather suddenly because the stock market crashed and her family lost all of their money. So she goes from being very comfortable, very financially comfortable, to being, you know, absolutely uncertain of her money. And at first, this Christian woman takes her in and says, well, you can stay with me and we'll make some quilts. You know, like she's staying with the woman, but she's making quilts for her or with her. And it's all the scraps from the different clothes to make quilts for people who need quilts because of the, you know, tremendous hit the economy took during the Great Depression. And I thought that was really interesting, the girls making the quilts. But then she ends up getting a job delivering books to people on horseback. And the people in this community, it's like out in the hills in Kentucky. It's called Boone's Hollow. I've never been to Kentucky. And the people in the Boone's Hollow are really not at all receptive to outsiders. And some of them make her job pretty difficult. And she's trying to deliver these books and just get by during the Great Depression like everyone else. So I definitely loved The Librarian of Boone's Hollow. The Vanishing at Loxby Manor by Abigail Wilson. It didn't really appeal to me. It wasn't really my taste, but I'm going to put it on this list because it's not the Miss Thomas list. It's the list of, you know, 10 books that would appeal to the young adult Christian girl. And this one I think is bound to appeal to quite a few girls. It's the story of this one girl who goes off to her friend's manor, and you know, it's historical fiction, I believe. And she goes off to her friend's manor, and her friend disappears that night, and the girl is looking for her friend. Meanwhile, she's struggling with the rejection of this guy who lives there. I think he's the friend's brother or cousin. I really wasn't terribly engaged in this book, but I think it would appeal to a lot of readers because it's that mystery of trying to find the friend who disappeared. It's the romance, the element of being at Loxby Manor, and, you know, the very wealthy. And this girl that's staying there looking for her friend is not as wealthy as her friend, and so she sort of feels like an outsider. And so there was a little bit of romance and a little bit of mystery and a little bit of the have versus the have-nots in that book. And I think it would appeal to a lot of readers. It wasn't for me, but I'm still putting it on the list. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. Here are two ARC books that would be advanced reader copy. These are books that I got for free in exchange for my opinion, and I have a very high opinion. I wouldn't review them. Well, I'd have to review them, I guess, but I wouldn't tell you they're good if they're not. And they both share the author of Janice Thompson. So I'm going to start with Off the Chain by Janice Thompson. Now, this one is a mystery involving, Christian girls, and it's these girls. They work in like a vet center, a veterinary clinic, and one rescues a dog, and they're just very silly, they have this dog and they're running around causing trouble, and the police officer he doesn't really try to arrest them, but he takes them home because they're in this drain pipe trying to get this dog, and the police officer thinks that they are, I can't remember if he thought they were vagrants or if he thought they were up to no good, but he's trying to take them home when they drive by the veterinary clinic and it's been vandalized. And so it's the mystery of who vandalized the clinic, and there's a little bit of romance because the two girls, they have their heart set on certain guys, and then there's also the friendship between the two girls. That's what I liked the best, was just the friendship between the girls. And I think the young adult Christian reader can't get enough of that book where, girls having fun, healthy, godly friendships. Along the same lines, Missing Pieces is written by a group of authors. Again, I'll put it here. And Janice Thompson happens to be one of the authors in that group. And Missing Pieces is just a collection of mysteries. They're just short story. They're really more like novellas because they're too long to be short stories. They're too short to be novels. I would say 50, maybe to 75, maybe 100 pages. I'm going to go with an average of 75 pages per story. It's hard for me to say because it was a digital copy, but it's a group of short novels, and they are novels for people who like Christian mystery and people who like puzzles. So I thought that was an interesting angle. All of the stories feature some sort of puzzle. And I mean, like literally a jigsaw puzzle, so if you're a jigsaw puzzle lover and you enjoy a fun mystery, they're just very light and clean, and I think that they would appeal to the average Christian girl. Speaking of novellas, here's another one. I haven't read it. I will read it before I officially add it to the Philippians 4 list, but Sisters is a collection of short novels by Lisa Wingate, and she seems very popular right now, so I thought, why not include a book with little novellas about sisters. I think that a lot of teenagers, they may want to read, but they don't want to commit to a really big book, so if we can get them hooked with a little short story, not short story, but a short novel, a short novella, and they really enjoy it, maybe they'll find that reading is more fun than they thought. And so I thought maybe having 3 novellas by Lisa Wingate would help. And finally, for the young adult Christian reader, I have not read this one. I'm sorry. I have it. A friend of mine has urged me to read it. She said it was a game changer for her when she was young. If you've been around my channel for a while, you know about my dear friend Kay from church. She loves to talk books with me, and she recommends great books, and she often purchases books and then gives them to me when she's finished. And she has recommended Freckles. So she said that when she was a teenager, and she's older than I am now, she said that when she was a teenager, she loved this book. And Freckles is, I haven't read it, but I did some research on it. And it's the story of a boy who is, I think, just about 20, and he's orphaned, and he's, I think he's been maimed. He's missing part of his arm, I believe. And he gets a job protecting timber in a swamp area where timber is very valuable and stolen. And so it's his job to protect the timber. He's supposed to make sure it doesn't get stolen. And so the story Freckles is, I think, largely about nature and appreciating nature, especially appreciating the timber in the swamp and preserving nature, from what I understand. But it's also the story of this young man, Freckles, who really wants to do the right thing despite the hurdles in his life. And the sequel to that would be A Girl of the Limberlost, which sounds to me very similar, except instead of Freckles, we have a girl whose mother, I think, from what I've read, I haven't read the book, I will, my friend loaned them to me. She keeps asking me, have you read them? So I will, but A Girl of the Limberlost features a young girl whose mother doesn't really seem very affectionate toward her. The girl's mother apparently was giving birth to her when her father died. I think he was swallowed up by quicksand, and she was born, and the mother seems to blame her for that, and so she doesn't have a great relationship with her mother. It's the same location, it's the same swamp area, and I think she ends up getting lost, and this boy, I guess, has Freckles. He has sort of created his own environment in the swamp area, and I suspect the same is true of the girl in this one. But I will read them. I will recommend them because I trust my friend Kay, and she said that these were just game changers for her when she was a teenager. So those are my 10 books for Christian young adult readers. I have to tell you, this is my 4th attempt at this video. I'm at my son's football practice, and everywhere I go, somebody walks behind me, or a car drives by, or these people brought their dog, and the dog's just, you know, making all this noise while I'm filming. So I apologize for all the different backgrounds and changes of scenery, although it might have been interesting to watch. But these are my 10 books for the Christian young adult reader, and I will read the ones that I mentioned that I haven't read yet, but I want to make sure I get this list together so that they can buy some books for their Christian library. So that's this one. The next video, I guess I will do some books for the young adult Christian boy. I'm really disappointed. I've tried really hard to find good books for the young adult Christian boy, and I haven't found too many, but I found a few, so I may do my next video about that. I have a few books to recommend for the young adult Christian reader, romance reader. That's another one I will be filming soon. So anyway, stay tuned, and I just need to wrap up this Philippians 4 list for the Christian library. So here's my first installment. Stay tuned, and the next one will be coming up next week at the latest. Bye for now. There is one advantage to trying to film with all this crazy, noisy stuff going on during football practice. Look at that sky, isn't it incredible? The sun is setting. I gotta hand it to these kids out here playing football too. They go directly from school to coming out here, sometimes in incredibly unbearable heat. And it's dark when they get home, and then they have to do homework and turn around and do it all again the next day. So, I don't know. They love it. You gotta love the game, I suppose. But I love the sky. Just wanted to share that.